This is Johnny with Tiger Bomb MMA, and tonight I'll be going over UFC Fight Night Walker versus Hill, giving you my thoughts, predictions, possible parlays. I'm not really thinking or really feeling the parlays on this card. I think it's a really 50-50 card with all the fights that I've been kind of watching tape on. No Jose this time. You get to actually see my face in my Tiger Bomb lounge. Look at that. I'm not used to being on camera, so I'm like, what the fuck? But yeah, I'll be giving you my thoughts and predictions on all the fights. And I'll start off with the first fight of the night. Didn't get a really capture card for it. It is short notice Jonathan Pearce versus Christian Rodriguez at featherweight. So I literally just got notice that this fight was happening, and it's at 145. Interestingly enough, Christian Rodriguez, he's typically a 135er. What I like about Christian Rodriguez is number one, he's a gamer. He fights really well. He fights out of Rufus Sport. And when I mean that he fights really well, I mean the guy's very well rounded, really good hips for takedown defense. His combinations are crisp. He's the prototypical Rufus Sport fighter, which funny enough, I think that gym is really making a resurgence with, Sergio Pettis being the Bellator champ and Raufeon Stotts essentially being the uncrowned champ. I think that dude's eventually going to get that championship in Bellator, but whether he'll fight Sergio or not, who knows? But I think the kid, Christian Rodriguez, I think he's very well rounded. My concerns with him is that he actually is having some issues on the scale. So right now at 145, Jonathan Pearce is probably going to be completely ridiculously lined. There's no line for it yet. Pearce is going to be the much bigger guy in there. He's 6 foot tall compared to the 5'7" in the once again typically 135er in Christian Rodriguez. I'd like to say that Christian has a chance if he can stuff takedowns, but the reality is fight ready Jonathan Pearce is a different animal. I've given this guy a lot of shit in the past, and I really think that the guy has evolved, and I think his style and game plan of using the wrestling and no longer really being a sloppy brawler is going to give a lot of guys a lot of problems in the UFC, especially short notice guys like Christian Rodriguez. That you know, I like what the guy brings to the table, but man, I've been kind of keeping an eye on this guy after his Contender Series fight, and his last fight was at catchweight, nearly 150 pounds. So who the hell knows how in shape he's going to look? I'd like to say because honestly, he's a much better, cleaner striker in this matchup. Pearce, I always criticized him for being just a sloppy brawler, but mixing in that takedowns or mixing in those takedowns with that cardio, it's going to give Christian Rodriguez a ton of trouble. So I'm going to say a in shape Jonathan Pearce is going to just, I wouldn't say he's going to dominate Christian Rodriguez. Again, Christian's very, very good. That takedown defense against Cejudo's training partner, Junior Cortez, which is Tracy Cortez's brother. So it's interesting that another guy from the, what is it called? Another guy from that camp is getting a crack at Christian Rodriguez because Rodriguez put a beating on Junior Cortez. Cortez could not get any takedowns on him, and he just lit him up, Rodriguez, that is. So I think Jonathan Pearce is going to really reclaim the fight ready honor and then finish Christian Rodriguez maybe in the second round. Uh, I'd like to see him in the weigh-ins. You know, sometimes with these ridiculously lined fights, it might be worth a shot to give a Christian Rodriguez, who's 7-0, a chance. Realistically, I don't think he wins. Again, he's too short, and Jonathan Pearce, he's pretty damn heavy on top. So Jonathan Pearce, second round, rear naked choke. And next bout, actual fight card, we've got Gabriel Benitez versus David Onama, and the odds on this one have it in favor of Onama, minus 155. Come back on Benitez. He's a plus 135. I think right off the bat, I got to give it to Onama on this one. Benitez, he's 33 years old, but he's a 33-year-old with a 22-9 record. He's taken a lot of punishment in the UFC, and I think he has issues with the African fighters. Onama is of Ugandan descent, and he looked pretty damn good in his UFC debut on short notice, up a weight class against Mason Jones. He cracked Jones incredibly hard, so much so that he turned Jones into like a fucking smothering wrestler. And, granted, Jones had to win that fight. I don't give Jones any shit. He had to do what he had to do, but it just shows you how much of a threat Onama is. And Onama didn't even really do any of his wrestling. He's a solid wrestler. He has a lot of power. And I think him taking that first loss, I don't want to say it helped him because I think that trajectory he was on was pretty solid. The issue with the line, I guess, right now, he's actually kind of ballooned up to a minus 170. My concern with Onama, although he's very well rounded, he's a tough guy, he's a gamer. He does eat a lot of leg kicks, and Benitez is known for those leg kicks. The issue with leg kicks in MMA is that it just takes one and it completely fucks you up. I don't think that'll happen, but he has to mind his P's and Q's with the leg kicks. I think Onama eventually scores like the second round knockout. He has to be very patient. I didn't mention that he trains with Glory MMA and Fitness with James Krause, so they're going to have a good game plan. Benitez, the dude's tough. He's a tough Mexican dude from AKA. You know, his last performance against Billy Q, it kind of sucked, really. He just got dominated by Billy Q, and there's no real shame in that, but I really thought he'd put up more of a fight. So I have to go with Onama. I'll go second round knockout. I think he kind of pieces up Gabriel Benitez in the beginning, maybe even implements his takedowns, and maybe even feinting for a takedown in the second round. He catches him with something like an uppercut or just something really hard knocks. I hate to say that he knocks out Benitez, but I just get the feeling that Africans are going to keep knocking this dude out. So I'll go with Onama second round knockout. Our next bout is between Jessica Rose Clark and Stephanie Eggers. This is taking place at bantamweight 135, women's 135. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Jessica Rose Clark, minus 190. Come back on Stephanie Eggers is plus 160. Going to my notes because women's MMA. Stephanie Egger, for an underdog, I think she might be live on this one because she's a judo black belt. Her ground and pound is pretty solid. I actually wrote down on my notepad here that I'm calling her Manson because she does have some pretty good ground and pound. Her ground and pound against Shayna Young was pretty impressive, so I'll give her that. She's not the best girl out there. It's just that when there's like a grappler versus Jessica Rose Clark is more of a overall MMA fighter. Like she can strike when she has to. Her striking is definitely going to be better here, and she can also grapple if she needs to, like she did against Giles and Edwards, which I wrote down here that she had to resort to the Australian lockdown to win against Edwards. That was a piss poor performance. Edwards, man, when she got up on her feet, she was trying to win that fight, and Jessica Rose Clark, did what she had to do. Don't have to really criticize her too much. I thought it was a shit performance. I think she's pretty hot, so I'm not going to shit on her too much. I think I wrote down this fight's going to suck, and I think it will because the striking of Rose Clark is good, but I can see Stephanie Egger potentially using that long right hand. She's going to be the taller girl by 1 inch, and she's going to have a 1 inch reach advantage. It's a 50-50 fight. Don't bet this fight at all. There might be some value on Stephanie Egger, who for whatever reason I kept calling her Jessica Egger because who cares? Jessica Rose Clark, I think she wins this one primarily using her striking and using her, I guess, counter wrestling. She did pretty decently against Sarah Alpar, but Sarah Alpar is not really up to Alpar. I guess, stupid pun I just came up with. Oh, fucking 4 years of improv gets you that garbage. I'm reading my notes. I guess all I wrote here is that Shayna Young knockout that Stephanie Eggers got. It was pretty shitty. I guess there was some controversy with that. Just to give you my take on it, Shayna Young ate something, an elbow or something, and she started covering her eye and looking away. I mean, when you're looking away like you're hurt, that's an automatic. The ref has to step in there. He thinks you're hurt. So that's how good Stephanie Eggers' ground and pound is. I mean, give her some credit. She's pretty good with that ground and pound. Everything else is so improving on her striking. I still have to go with Rose Clark. I get a feeling I'm going to be wrong on this one. I think the underdog might take it. She might be live. Again, women's MMA, anything can happen. At plus 160, yeah, I think it's worth a shot. But I will go with Jessica Rose Clark. I think she is good enough, and she's been improving enough. She's pretty damn strong. She's been working out. I'm following her on Instagram. She has some, you know what I mean? So I'll go with Rose Clark by decision. Next up at strawweight, we have a bout between Diana Belbita and Gloria de Paula. And the odds on this one have it in favor of. Funny enough, I checked the odds on this a couple days ago, and I thought I saw Belbita as a favorite. Now it is pretty much a pick 'em. Depending on where you go, you might actually get some favorable odds on Gloria de Paula as a plus 100. This one's interesting. It's primarily going to be a striking battle. Both of these girls are pretty solid on the feet. Gloria de Paula, she's had some issues in the UFC just recently. She got cucked by the ultimate cuck, Cheyenne Vlismas, by knockout. That was a nasty knockout, man. And not only that, her takedown defense looked kind of shitty against Cheyenne. Um, if this stays striking, I think it's another one of these 50-50 fights. Deanna Belbita, she's very aggressive. I like what she brings to the table. Like her last fight with Hannah Goldie was pretty solid. I bet her as an underdog, and she did everything right. No, well, not everything. Her defense looked kind of shitty. She was very susceptible to the left high kick. Didn't like that. If it's timed perfectly by a better striker like Gloria de Paula, she's training with a good camp at Shooter Box Diego Lima. Her girlfriend is Myra Bueno Silva. There's a chance she wins this one. If you can get her at dog odds, I think I'll go with Gloria de Paula. It's going to be a hot fight. I won't be skipping this one. The thing about Belbita, that if you are taking Belbita, is that she's very good at getting any strikes she gets landed on, getting them back. Like I saw against Hannah Goldie, she looked better than ever after dropping down to straw weight. And what I really enjoyed is that Hannah Goldie would land a strike, whether it be a jab or whatever, and Belbita would answer with like one, two, three, four shots, eventually always ending with a leg kick, which is nice. Like if you can get away with it without maybe getting that leg caught or getting taken down with a single, keep doing it. You're going to rack up points. She ended up winning the entire fight. It's a tough one, man, but if it's going to stay on the feet, don't discredit Gloria de Paula striking. I think she's pretty good, and I think she has the higher ceiling. Both of these girls are still young, but I think her training with Myra Bueno Silva is a better look overall. And, Deanna Belbita, I just don't necessarily respect her overall skill set. Like her striking is good enough to beat some girls just by pressure and being the bigger girl. She's going to be the bigger girl here as well. She's going to have a half-inch reach advantage and a 2-inch height advantage. But I think Paula is good enough of a striker to just get that first UFC win. She absolutely needs it. If you can get her at plus money, go with probably De Paula. It's another 50-50 women's fight. So I'll keep an eye on that line. The next bout at bantamweight, we have a fight between Mario Bautista and Khalid Taha. I think Mario Bautista has had some work done since he got knocked out by what's his face, Trevin Jones. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Mario Bautista at a plus 120. Comeback on Taha is a plus 100. This one is another one of these fights that I don't feel uber confident in because the odds are still pretty damn close that anything could happen. Khalid Taha's a bit of a, what's the word I can use? A victim of the drug pop. I guess it's a victim of his own stupidity. He got popped for steroids against Bruno Silva after he looked better than ever in that fight where he submitted Bruno Silva with an arm triangle, and he hasn't looked great since. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, losing to guys like Ioni Barcelos and to the recently departed Sergey Morozov. Rest his soul. The thing about the line is that I think people might be undervaluing Taha. I know the narrative of like, dude did steroids. He hasn't looked good at all. You know, he's still a tough guy. He's this technical striker. Mario Bautista, he's a good striker. He's trained out of a good camp and MMA lab. He's going to have the height advantage by 4 inches. He's going actually no reach advantage. They both have 69-inch reach. 69. I mean, they're relatively the same age. The thing about Mario Bautista is that he's a volume guy and Taha's a power guy. The volume usually wins and edges out the rounds, but if Taha can land, because I think he's a more technical striker, he can actually crack Mario. We don't know how well his chin has recovered or how good his chin is. I mean, that shot that he took from Trevin Jones, it didn't put him out, but it was like, damn, that was that was sneaky, man. Like he's kind of spazzy out there in the feet sometimes, and I think he leaves a lot of openings. Oh man, I'm gonna just flat out say it. I might be taking a lot of underdogs just for the fuck of it. I'm gonna go with Taha to win this one. I think he can actually win this one by a decision, being the more technical striker. I mean, Mario's gonna be putting out a lot of output, which is probably gonna honestly win him that decision. But I gotta go with Taha. If it's that close, two strikers. I mean, I think Taha's gonna be the stronger guy. I know Bautista's looked pretty solid as well. He's been like weight training. We'll see at weigh-ins. Right now, I'm leaning Taha. Again, I'm not putting a whole ton of stock in that, decline. He's still 29 years old at 135. If he looks like shit against Mario Bautista, I think it's like if he's still in the UFC, continuously fade him down the line in his next fight. But I'll give a shot to Taha. I think he can actually edge this one out just by being the tougher, grittier guy. That fight against Barcelos, although Barcelos was whipping his ass, pillar to post, he put up a fight, man. He was willing to go out there and take that fight and really put it on Barcelos. I remember actually betting that fight at the casino and just kind of waiting in my car until that fight ended. And I thought Barcelos was just going to run through him and submit him. Didn't happen that way. And I'm like, shit, I got to wait for 3 rounds for this shit to end. I give Taha some credit. So I'll give Taha the nod on this one. I'll go Taha by decision. Our next bout at 145, Chaz the Scrapper Skelly versus Mark Mugen Striegl, actually. This one is interesting. I have some thoughts on this one. And let me read you these fucking odds. The odds are at minus 220 for Chaz Skelly. Come back on Mark Striegl plus 180. So doing research on both of these guys, Chaz Skelly, I didn't really need to do too much. He doesn't really do anything different than he's always done. He's a tough, gritty grappler. He's got great chokes. The dude is a tough son of a bitch, and I think he's always live at any round to maybe snatch up a submission, get a choke in. And Mark Striegl, the dude is carved out of fucking marble. The dude reminds me of the Filipino Costa because he's just chiseled. He's a handsome guy. He has his issues though, man. He doesn't fight like Costa, by the way. He's a grappler. He's a sambo champion. And he's good. He's very strong. He's moving up to 145 after getting his ass knocked out at 135 against Said Nurmagomedov. A fight that didn't last very long. Got cracked. I guess he went for the single leg. Did not go well for him. Got knocked the fuck out. Took some time off. I think at 145 his chin's going to be better. The issue with Mark is that I've seen him consistently in my tape watch of him lose in the third round. He'll dominate first round, second round, third round comes along, some shit happens. I don't think he fully gasses out. I just think he mentally checks out and he gets caught in something or he gets finished. And that always concerns me about betting Mark Striegl. But I think right now he actually has a chance to win this one. But it's very tricky if you're going to bet Mark Striegl. I mean, that line looks good. He's fighting a guy in Chaz Skelly who hasn't fought since, 2 years ago in 2020. The last fight was against Jordan Griffin. Fight after that was supposed to be Jamal Emmers. Jamal Emmers had back spasms, couldn't make it. I guess you would call that a forfeit. But the dude's an aging guy. He's had multiple issues. He had a back injury, I believe. I couldn't confirm if it was a back injury that put him out for a while. And honestly, this might be his last fight, and it's a winnable fight. Let me read my notes on this one because I specifically think that if you happen to be on the Mark Striegl side, you might need to either take him early because the guy is strong. He actually gets the scarf hold on guys. That's the same one that Boa Constrictor gets. Blanking on his name right now, but the dude is very fucking strong and his wrestling's very good, very solid. Sambo, I think he's a very complete fighter. It's just that his gas tank needs some work, and also his chin might be super suspect. I don't think Chaz Skelly's gonna crack him or anything, despite having 3 inches of reach on him and 4 inches of height. I still think Mark Striegel's going to win the first 2 rounds. That third round scares the shit out of me if he doesn't get the doesn't get the finish. So I would say if it ends up being a live betting situation, maybe blast that Chad Skelly line in round number three. I think Chad Skelly is a tougher guy and more willing to go out there and get a finish, while Mark Striegel's going to maybe try to avoid any grappling at that point. He'll be exhausted. Or just straight up bet Chad Skelly by either finish in the third round. That might be one of the better prop bets. I think if that doesn't happen, Striegl can easily win this one by a decision. It's just that you really have to mind your p's and q's as to how much you're putting down. At that plus 180, I think he dominates the first two rounds. I mean, his grappling is good enough to really. He could even finish Chad Skelly. Honestly, the guy's really good. It's just if he can't get the finish, that third round's going to get real fucking hairy. So I will go tentatively with Mark Striegl. He's probably going to fuck me. I might put a small bet on him, but again, look at Chad Skelly for that third round. Next bout, ooh, that's going to be a banger. We have Jesse Strader versus Chad the Monster Anheliger. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Anheliger minus 280. Come back on Jesse Strader plus 230. I think the line is kind of super wide on this one. Chad Anheliger, from the tape watch, I think his record right now is 11-5. It doesn't look good. He's beaten a lot of bums in Canada. His best win was his win against the guy in the Contender Series, Muin Gafarov, where he won by split decision, and he rightfully won that one. The dude's very tough, very well rounded, good striking, good wrestling, good jiu-jitsu. He's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He's a very well complete fighter, but he's not great everywhere. Jesse Strader, on the other hand, he's 5-2, came into the UFC on short notice against Montel Jackson. He fought primarily in Combate Americas. He actually lost to Marcelo Rojo in a fight that was really fun. And the weird thing, he was like 3-0, and they gave him Marcelo Rojo, a fucking pit bull dog who had like maybe 14 wins and certain losses. He's a more experienced guy. Jesse Strader is one of these guys that if you were to maintain his career trajectory in the right way, give him the right fights, not taking Montel Jackson on short notice to get into the UFC, I think this guy could be something special. There's something about him that I think is quite unique in a sense. He reminds me a lot of Justin Gaethje, just a fully white, all white Justin Gaethje, not that half Mexican Justin Gaethje. Funny enough, though, I think Jesse he's from California, so he has a bit of that like Mexican swag to him a bit because he fought in Mexico a couple times. Jesse Strader hits hard. He has pretty shitty defense. He is working on his defense. He's shredded to the fucking bone right now. I think he's going to be the more athletic guy. And yes, I think I'm going to take Jesse Strader at those odds, a plus 230. He's a very good wrestler. Yeah, I wouldn't say he's a great wrestler, but he's a strong, athletic guy. And I think he can implement his, I would say, if I was going to rate his wrestling, I'd give it like a 6. I think a 6 plus that athleticism is going to be beneficial for him in this fight. He hits hard, as I mentioned. Body, head, sometimes body, head. He has a beautiful knockout. If you YouTube his highlights, he has a beautiful knockout where he just rips to the body and then he hits an overhand left that knocks a dude clean out. I think this guy has a higher ceiling. I think people are counting this dude out. It could just be that because I have some sort of I don't know. I don't want to say a man crush. I kind of like the guy's style. He reminds me of Marcelo Rojo. I mean, literally, they fight very similarly in that sense that they're fucking dogs out there. And Chad Anheliger, like, I'm not going to give this guy any shit. He's very good. He's a very solid guy. It's just that at 35 years old, coming into the UFC, he's very solid. I would say he's a good, solid 7 fighter, but I think Jesse Strader has the ability to potentially be an 8 fighter, like a level 8 out of 10 if he were to do the right things. I mean, he has to work on his defense. The odds are maybe Chad Anheliger knocks out Jesse Strader if his defense is still kind of shitty because he kind of leaves himself open. Like when he's throwing those body shots, although they're beautiful to watch, his chin is right there to be hit. And then Anheliger has some pretty solid, everything. As I mentioned, he's a solid, complete fighter. It's just that I'm not too confident in betting him at minus 280 with a guy as athletically freakishly gifted as Jesse Strader with that power. And I'll go with Jesse Strader to actually get a knockout in, I would say, the second round. I'm telling you, Strader's fun to watch. If he does get knocked out, which again, like I worry about his defense. I know he's actually been talking about working on his kickboxing because he mainly throws hands. I think if he works on all that, implements some takedowns in there, he could even get a decision win against Chad Anheliger, just holding him down. So I'll go with Jesse Strader. I'll go second round TKO to win this one. Might bite me in the ass, but I'll be putting my money where my mouth is on Jesse Strader. That just sounded weird, putting my mouth on Jesse Strader. All right, next bout. Actually, before that, I put this in here. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. I always fucking forget to tell people to do that. I'm not one of these like YouTubers. I'm just a fucking guy on the internet. Actually, yeah, leave a comment. Like you get to see my face, make fun of me. I don't really give a shit. You get to see that I put my nickname from high school. I had a bunch of Portuguese friends, and they would call me "Geboy." Hey, Geboy. And I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, hey, that means strong ox. And I'm like, oh shit, that's really cool. Like I was kind of a sickly kid and in high school, and they would call me the strong ox, gay boy, gay boy. It was just like, oh, these guys are fucking awesome. They're really building up my confidence. And it helped. Like I used the name gay boy and I started working out and gained some weight. So it just, but yeah, like, share, subscribe, grab the tiger by the balls like Rockhold does. Our next bout at heavyweight, we've got Parker Porter versus Alan Baudot. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Porter, minus 250. Comeback on Baudot is 2 plus 200. Alan Baudot, I accidentally called him Alan Bidet once, which is a bit fitting because he's a bit shit. He's 8-2. He's lost by knockout to guys like Dalcha Lambulia back in, what was that, EFC about 4 years ago. Got knocked out by Tom Aspen on the ground with ground and pound, and just recently got knocked out by Nascimento 6 months ago. So the dude has a suspect chin. He's a good striker, trains with MMA Factory with Cyril Gahn. He's a good striker in round number one. Push a pace on him. I think he crumbles. I'm keeping this one short because it's heavyweight MMA. I have no confidence in heavyweight MMA. I thought Black Beast was going to knock out Tai Tuivasa, and here I am with less money than I had yesterday. But Parker Porter, I think he's a solid heavyweight. He's on a 2-fight winning streak. He's on a better trajectory. He proved that he is not a pushover when beating guys like Chase Sherman and Josh Parisian. I don't necessarily find Josh Parisian to be a good heavyweight, period, but the fact that he's able to go out there and get decisions is solid. I think he can do the same here. Potentially, honestly, I'm predicting he's going to get a second round TKO. He'll just have to tire out Baudot, get him to the ground and pound him, and then the rest takes care of itself. So I'll go with Parker Porter to win by ground and pound in round number 2. Our next bout at middleweight, Joaquin Buckley versus Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. As I call him, Abdul Razak Al-Has-Been. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Buckley, minus 150. Comeback on Al-Hassan is a plus 125. This one can be a bit difficult if you're going based off of the logic of MMA math. The catalyst here being that Alessio Chirico knocked out with a head kick Joaquin Buckley. Abdul Razak Al Hassan knocked out Chirico with a head kick. And funny side story about that, me and Jose, we were in San Diego during this fight card, and we had just eaten barbecue, and nature called quite abruptly during this fight. So I rushed to a restroom. I'm getting ready to watch the fight. Fight ends immediately. And it's just like me in a toilet stall, doing my business, watching a fight. It's one of those weird memories that I keep like, when I die, one of these days, my life is going to flash before my eyes and I'm going to see that head kick knockout again when I'm taking a shit inside of a fucking Wendy's parking lot. And by parking lot, I mean bathroom. Anyways, Joaquin Buckley versus Abdul Razak Al Hassan it's a bit interesting. They're both big, beefy dudes. Technically, both welterweights, but they're fighting at middleweight. I'll keep this one brief as well. This one's really tough. Really, on paper, it swings tremendously in Buckley's way. I think he has the better momentum, younger. He has yet to be accused of any shenanigans, if you know what I'm saying. And really, it sucks to even bring it up. I should kind of feel bad about that because he didn't deserve that, Hassan, that is, and it did really fucked up his career. And we see where that led to, what led to that, what came of that, I should say. He was on a 3-fight losing streak, moves up, doesn't look great, and he could be on a upward trajectory here if he beats Joaquin Buckley. I just don't think it's going to happen. He he kind of got exposed by Malkoon, man. Malkoon proved to be a much better fighter than what Phil Haas did to him. It's just more so what I believe was exposed from Al Hassan is that if you put a pace on him, he gasses out and he's not much of a threat. Buckley, if you put a pace on him, he's still going to be out there trying to knock your head out. I think he has a much better cardio, and as long as he's very careful, he should be able to win this fight. I think by knockout. I think maybe in the third round he catches Al Hassan with something. He's going to have to attack the body, which he will. He's going to be the faster guy. He has been doing some training out in Detroit with that one martial arts dude, the self defense dude. So, he's probably going to have some tricks up his sleeve. So I'll go with Buckley by a third round TKO. If you want to be a bit safer, maybe go with either the under 2.5, if that's the case, or that the fight won't go the distance. But yeah, I think this is going to be explosive in there. I'm looking forward to this one, and I'm really hoping Buckley gets the knockout because Al Hassan, as much as it sucks for me to say, I think he doesn't have it anymore. He probably shouldn't be fighting in the UFC anymore, just based on like how his trajectory has been. And I think he would have much more success, kind of rack up wins elsewhere, maybe at Bellator, Ego FC even. And Buckley's still young; he's 27. He's still got a lot of more years ahead of him, and this name on his record would look really good, beating Judo Thunder, the guy who knocked out. Funny enough, it's kind of crazy that Sabah Hamasi is doing really well in Bellator, and this dude knocked him out twice. So, you know, it sucks to see what happened to Al Hassan, but yeah, I'll go with Buckley by third round TKO. Next bout, lightweight, Jim Miller versus Nicholas Motta. This one's interesting because the odds, I don't think they tell really the whole story here. We have Mota as a slight favorite, minus 175. Come back on Jim Miller. He's a plus 150. Jim Miller's a live dog. He's always a live dog, particularly in this bout. Mota, he trains out of Factory X. He's going to have a 1 inch height advantage, the youth advantage, the dog advantage. I think being the younger dog in this, Jim Miller's a dog, but he's an aging dog. And sometimes you kind of notice in there that if he gets enough thrown at him, he kind of shows up a little bit. And I think Mota could really push a pace on Jim Miller and, cause Jim Miller to maybe take some bad shots. That's if Mota comes out there aggressive and precise. And I'm not sold on Mota being precise. The dude is very, very fun to watch. Throws a shit ton of hooks. He's basically, as Bisbing put it, hooks and head kicks. And the dude is fun to watch, but he's wild in there to the point of being sloppy. If he starts throwing too many hooks at all at once, because he does that like 1, 2, 3 hooks to the head, he's a headhunter as well. If that's the case, I can see Jim Miller ducking under, taking him down, and essentially having his way with him on the ground, just controlling him there, maybe even getting a submission in the first or second round. So it's tough, really, because if Mota connects with one of his crazy bomb hooks, it's going to probably put Jim Miller out. The guy he fought in the Contender Series to get in the UFC was a Joseph Laurie, and the amount of punishment that he dealt Laurie was like, holy shit, Laurie's got a hell of a chin. And I don't think Jim Miller's going to be able to take those bombs. But I do have faith in Jim Miller at plus 150 to implement a good game plan, take down Mota, and have his way with him on the ground. If Mota can stuff these takedowns, Jim Miller might be in a shit ton of trouble. Miller, I don't want to discount his hands. He's got some power in his hands. He knocked out Eric Gonzalez. And funny enough, I specifically mentioned for that breakdown, like, hey, if you're betting Miller by submission, be careful because he could accidentally knock out Eric Gonzalez. And what I mean by accidentally knocking out a guy is that you don't intend to use your hands to really do a shit ton of damage, like knocking some dude out. You're more so looking to, keep the distance away and then just throw a strike. Jim Miller threw an overhand right, if I recall, not necessarily intending to knock this dude out. He didn't put a whole ton of power into it. It's just that Eric Gonzalez walked in recklessly, which, Nicholas Motta might do as well, and he just got the full brunt force of it, and he knocked him the fuck out. I predict Jim Miller getting a submission in this one. He should not, I repeat, get that feeling of like, I want another knockout and try to knock out Motta, because Motta will put him on his ass and knock him out. So go for the submissions, boy. Take him down, duck under, and we can take home this plus 150 and cash it. Next bout at middleweight, we've got Kyle Daukaus versus Jamie Pickett. I'm not a fan of this fight. I'm not very good at picking Jamie Pickett, or at least, I'm really bad at predicting his fights. I'm like 2-2 every time. Really, recently I pick him to win, he loses. Anytime I pick him to lose, he wins. Like I picked him to lose against Joseph Holmes, didn't work out for me. I picked him to actually beat Jordan Wright, and he couldn't even do that. I mean, Jordan Wright's a glass cannon, and I thought, with the I don't want to say speed advantage, but the power advantage against Jordan Wright, Jamie Pickett could have done some damage to him. Wasn't the case. I was very let down by that performance. Kyle Daukaus, on the other hand, the dude, he's a bit goofy in there. His hands are getting better. His brother's now full-time MMA. They should be training more. His hands are going to improve since his last fight against Kevin Holland. Interesting bout there. Luckily, I didn't lose any money with my bet on Harlan. It got turned into a no contest because of what I think Kyle Daukaus' biggest weapon is, and that is his bionic headbutt. That headbutt is devastating, man. He knocked out Kevin Holland. That was crazy. But in all seriousness, Kyle's hands have gotten improved. I think he's going to, how can I put it? He's not going to fall for the bullshit Jamie Pickett's going to play. He's a staller. At least that is what he's presenting himself as. I keep saying, if Jamie Pickett really commits himself to being a better fighter and not trying to edge out boring ass decisions, he could be a force at middleweight. Not top 10 or anything like that, but I think he can be more exciting. And I would even potentially say he has a chance of knocking out Kyle Daukaus. I see zero chance now. The way Jamie Pickett fights, he does the bare minimum now. He wins his fights as of late, but he's not necessarily fighting really good competition. He's bullying dudes like Sarpoli and beating guys that gassed out in the first fucking round like Joseph Holmes. So I'll go with Daukaus. He won't gas out. I don't think. Yeah, I think the last time he gassed out was with Phil Haas, but Phil Haas was really brutally attacking the body, which was a brilliant game plan. I think Kyle Daukaus is going to, I don't want to say dominate this fight, but he's going to have success on the feet, on the ground, and in the clinch. And I think he is going to completely outclass Jamie Pickett. I don't know if you want to take my word on that. I'm 50-50 again with Jamie Pickett picks. So we'll see what happens. But I'll go with Kyle Daukaus to win this one. I'll say actually he'll get a submission in the, I'll say I'll say the third round, primarily because I think Pickett is good enough and strong enough and explosive enough to maybe even buck off Kyle Daukaus off of him if he ever gets him in like side control or mount, get back to the feet, which will then tire him out. And then Daukaus will then have some pretty decent success on the feet, which would potentially lead to Pickett trying to go for a takedown or even going against the clinch against the cage, which probably would play into Daukaus's favor where he can like duck under, take the back, put a hook in, eventually like get him to the ground and do his work there. So I'll go with round number 3, Kyle Daukaus. Next bout, heavyweight. Next bout. Next bout at light heavyweight, main event of the night. We've got Johnny Walker versus Jamal Hill. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Jamal Hill at a minus 260. Comeback on Johnny Walker is a plus 240. I don't have much to say about this one. I'm not going to waste people's time. I'm going to go with Jamal Hill to knock out Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker, he has that X factor if he decides that he wants to fight now. He could knock out Jamal Hill, but I think Jamal Hill's too damn smart. His hands are super fast. What he did to Jimmy Crute was devastating. I knew he was going to beat Jimmy Crute. I didn't expect him to beat Jimmy Crute in the first round like the way he did. Completely out. He just blew him out of the water, really. Johnny Walker, on the other hand, we know what he can do, but I think he's just been fully exposed. More technical guys like Jamal Hill aren't going to have issues with him. I think if Johnny Walker has any success, it would be in the first round. But I don't think Jamal Hill has any fear of Johnny Walker. I think he's going to be very smart, very calculated, pick his shots correctly. They're going to come quick, fast, and they're going to hurt Johnny Walker, and he's going to get knocked out. I would say in the second round, I'm giving Johnny Walker some credit. The dude could do some crazy athletic bullshit and knock out Jamal Hill. He could throw a flying knee 2 feet away from Jamal Hill and it would still land him somehow, still land on him somehow. So he has to be careful. I think Jamal Hill knows that. Jamal Hill had his first loss against Paul Craig. I think he's going to learn a lot from that. He handled that fight and that loss like a man. He made a really bad mistake in that fight, and the way he handled it just kind of made me more confident on the guy. I wasn't sold on him in the beginning. I knew the L was coming. I did not expect it to be from Paul Craig. I thought he was going to handle Paul Craig. I actually thought OSP was going to hand him his first loss. I was wrong there. And you know what? Having to lose to Paul Craig isn't the worst thing in the world. That dude is fucking dangerous on the ground. So I'll go with Jamal Hill, second round knockout. You know, I would say even the under would be fine. I don't think Johnny Walker is going to survive the barrage that Jamal Hill's going to throw at him. SBG, Johnny Walker, I can't pick him again. I thought he could do some damage to Maheta, and that was a snooze fest. I'm not picking Johnny Walker in some time. If he wins this fight, by the grace of God, he knocks out Jamal Hill, which would be really his only path. It'd be interesting to see how he does it, if he's more, I guess, controlled chaos in there. But Jamal Hill's the play here. As for parlays, definitely have Jamal Hill on that one. I'll have Daukaus in a parlay and probably Parker Porter. Everything else, I'm not confident in. I feel like my record right now, I think, is 32-16 for the year so far. So I'm doing pretty solid, but I feel like this card's going to fuck that up for me. And you know what? Like, it is what it is. Like, I'm taking some shots on like guys like Strader, which, I think I might put him in one weird ass underdog parlay. But when it comes to him, I might pick him straight to win this bet at plus money. Mark Striegl, man, that third round is going to really scare the shit out of me if I put money on him. So he's out. And everyone else, I think it's like a 50-50. Oh, also, I forgot to mention Onama. I think Onama will be on my main parlay as well. He's pretty fucking good. So I'll go with him. But that's been Johnny from Tiger Bomb MMA. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Definitely leave a comment. Oh, follow the my Twitter, the Tiger Bomb Instagram page, the Discord. This past Saturday, had a great time with those guys on the Discord. Shout out to you guys. Don't have your names out here. I'll put them out in the comments as a shout out. Thanks a lot for a good time, man. Also, PayPal my money. Great time talking to you on Instagram. Waiting to cash that fade on Casey O'Neill. And I've been wanting to come up with a new catchphrase as I'm like ending the show. And I think I figured the perfect one out based on what happened to me this past Saturday, where I put money on Olberg to win by finish, and he had a fucking SPG-esque snooze fest. So I'll say that's been Johnny from Tiger Bomb MMA. Those have been my predictions for UFC Walker versus Hill. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. And as always, fuck Olberg.